My first ever song comparison. There were two covers of Shaboom that came out around the same time. One was by the Chords, who actually wrote the song, and the other was by the Crew Cuts, who created their version shortly after. And basically what it came down to was, I'm just gonna lay it straight out in front of you. There were racial tensions back then. It was a fucked up time, I admit. Racism sucks. It was horrible. And as a result, the Chords were an African American group, and the Crew Cuts were a Caucasian group originally from Canada. So who do you think got the better recordings back then? Because, you know, everything was white bread. Seriously, I mean, more white bread than the sandwich I ate earlier. So the Crew Cuts version got a little bit higher, but I am going to do a comparison. We're going to find out which song, personally, I think is a little bit better. We're just going to go through the music and how it sounds. Basically, how it sounds to my ears determines how much I like the song. If it's more melodic, I don't really care how well it's written. I don't care about the lyrics so much. I just care about how well the song sounds to me. That's what makes a song good. That's why you listen to songs. So let's start off with the original, the Chords version. Great melody. Their harmonies are great. The way that they harmonize together is fantastic. They have a very rough sound because, again, they were from the streets of New York, and I think they sang in a church choir or something like that, but they were largely, yeah, their song was rough around the edges, and that's what was great about it, because it was 54, so we hadn't really got the big greaser thing yet, but in 54, this was like the first song that sounded kind of rebellious because of how rough it was around the edges, and as a result of that, I think that's why it didn't do so good. I think that's why the Crew Cuts version did a little bit better. Now let's jump over to them for a second. Their version is softer. It's more like music that I guess the mom and pop who didn't want their kid listening to anything that was rebellious would play the Crew Cuts version on the radio. Because the beginning goes, "Inani ding dong, a lang a lang a lang, do shaboom, ya da 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 da." The song sounds really I want to say immature. That might be a good word for it. It sounds like a Disney song, really. It sounds like a Disney version of the Chords version. It kind of sounds like the tunes are singing it in a sing-along. I don't really like the version that much. It doesn't have the soul in it. The way they sing just sounds really soft. They don't sound like they even... Someone said they don't sound like they care about what they're singing about, and that's a good way to describe it. There's no real heart in their lyrics. The version's overrated, and it only got higher because they were a Caucasian group, because that's just how it was. It's fucked up. The Chords version, in my opinion, is superior in melody, superior in format. The song is it's a better version. They even sang it live back in 1980. You can look up the Chords, Shaboom, 1980, and you'll find what you're looking for. And they sang it fantastic there. They even did an a cappella version with no instruments. You can look up the Chords, Shaboom a cappella, and find a great a cappella version. I don't know about the Crew Cuts so much. Their version is... I like how everyone thinks that... Some people mislabel it. Some people think that the Chords version is the Crew Cuts version, and don't ever get them confused. The Crew Cuts version is not on par with the Chords. Just the name Crew Cut alone lets you know that these guys are prim and proper, and they're not going to sing with any real rebelliousness. They're not going to sing with any real oomph. They're just going to sing like music that some Ivy Leaguer would listen to make himself feel better. The Chords version was more, it was superior. It was more vocal, better melody, and I love the way that he ends his stanzas with, "Hey nani ding dong, a langany 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 lang, whoa bip, shadooba-dooba-dib." I love that. That's great. That's fantastic. They didn't really put that so much in the Crew Cuts version because they wasted that at the start, and they really dragged it out. They sing like they're exaggerating the style, like, "Listen to us, we sing so prissy because we think this music is prissy." And I don't like the Crew Cuts version. You might. I don't. That's where we differ. Everyone has their own opinion. But when I think of the song Shaboom, I think of the Chords version because that was the original, and in my opinion, that is the best. So thank you for watching. The Chords version wins this competition. Stay cool.